Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about Richard Borshay Lee's article, Eating Christmas in the Kalihari. It is a really interesting story that shows how much our view of the world shapes the way we understand other people's actions and how we can understand other people's culture. Let me start with a short summary. In the article, Lee wanted to celebrate Christmas with the Kung people by giving them a big ox to eat, and he thought of it as a gift to give them. He thought this was the perfect gift. In his mind, it was generous and something that would make people happy. But when he brought the ox, the Kung people laughed at it and called it skinny and worthless, and he thought that they were making fun of him. At first, Lee was confused and even a little upset. He expected them to be thankful and impressed. Later, though, he learned that they weren't really saying the ox was bad. Instead, this was part of their culture. They talk down about gifts to keep people humble and make sure no one feels more important than anyone else. So what felt like an insult to Lee was actually a way for them to keep peace and balance in their group. This story shows how worldview affects the meaning we give to things. Lee grew up in a culture where giving gifts is seen as a big deal, and the right response is usually gratitude and praise. But in the Kung worldview, praising a gift too much could lead to someone feeling proud and arrogant, which they see as dangerous for the group. So the same action, giving an ox, meant two very different things depending on who was looking at it. One clear example of bias in the story is that Lee assumed everyone would see his gift the way that he did. In his culture, giving something valuable makes you look generous and good. So when they laughed at him, he felt embarrassed and even angry. But that was because he was judging their actions through his own cultural lens. He wasn't wrong to feel confused, but he was only seeing it from his side. This experience really challenges the idea that our own culture is normal or the best culture. Lee thought that being thankful for gifts was the obvious, natural response. But to the Kung, acting that way would actually go against their values. What he saw as rude was for them the right and respectful way to act. It's a reminder that what feels normal to us is not always normal to someone else. I can connect this to my own culture. Here we often celebrate birthdays with big parties, gifts, and focusing on one person the whole day. To us, that feels fun and natural, but to someone from another culture, especially one that values modesty or the group over the individual, it could look strange or even selfish. They might wonder why one person gets all the attention. So again, the same action can mean very different things depending on the worldview behind it. From this, I think one of the best practices for communication across cultures is to stay humble and curious. Instead of assuming we know what something means, we can ask or pay attention to how people in that culture understand it. Lee might have saved himself some frustration if he had asked more questions earlier, instead of expecting their reaction to match his own ideas. In real life, this means slowing down, listening carefully, and not jumping to conclusions when we interact with people from other cultures. I've had a smaller version of this happen in my own life. One time I was eating dinner at a friend's house and I wasn't that hungry, so I ended up not eating everything on my plate. Now, I understand now how that can be seen as disrespectful, but that day later my friend explained to me that in their culture, not eating everything can be seen as disrespectful because it can mean that you didn't enjoy the food. I didn't mean anything bad by it, but our worldviews gave the same actions two very different meanings. That's a lot like what happened to Lee. Both of us had to learn that actions don't always mean the same thing across cultures. To wrap it up, the most important lesson I took from eating Christmas in the Kalahari is that our worldview shapes how we see the world, and that can create misunderstandings if we don't realize it. No one culture has the only normal way to do things. The more open we are to seeing through someone else's eyes, the better our communication will be. For me, this story is a reminder to be patient, curious, and respectful when I'm around people from different backgrounds. Thank you so much.